Ever wondered how to write blog content that not only ranks on Google, but keeps your readers coming back for more? Well, today we're diving into the art of creating content that balances SEO strategy with authentic engagement. Whether you're new to blogging or looking to level up your content game, you are in for a treat. And if you're new here, I'm Jen Vasquez, and I help hypervisy female service providers use Pinterest to bookmark clients and increase their income and impact. And on this podcast, I host expert interviews on all things marketing. So if marketing is something that you want to learn more about for your business, definitely subscribe to our podcast or our YouTube channel, however you like to take in the information. Today, I am so excited to be chatting with Allison Verhalen at AV Writing Services LLC. Allison majored in English and psychology without realizing she was getting the perfect degree for content marketing. It wasn't until a few years after she graduated when a family friend asked her to write blog posts for his law firm that she realized that she could go make money doing what she loves. Fast forward to today, and Allison is still writing blog posts as well as website landing pages and emails, but also integrates SEO and marketing strategy into the content that she writes to give her clients their very best chance of attracting, engaging, and converting their ideal clients. Welcome, Allison.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here because I know that this is always a topic that people want to hear about. So let's go ahead and dive in. Can you tell us about your journey from majoring in English and psychology to discovering your passion and career in content marketing? And what was that sort of light bulb moment for you?
I think it was a few light bulb moments. I was actually planning on going into publishing, but I graduated in 2009 right after the job market crashed. So that wasn't going to happen. So I was just answering phones for a few years, ended up between jobs at one point. And as you said in the brilliant introduction you gave for me, it was actually my roommate at the time. Her dad was awesome and offered to give me stuff to do around his office until I got back on my feet. And one of the things he needed was someone to write blog posts for his law firm. And he knew I had a strong writing background, so he offered me the gig. And I was like, what? I can get paid to write? Seriously? Yeah, sign me up. So I jumped at that chance and started writing for him, and then for an associate of his, and then for some friends of mine. And it just kind of grew from there. The light bulb moment was about 6 months after I started writing for that first client. And he came back and told me that I had brought in $75,000 worth of business to his law firm just through the blog posts I was writing. I know, right?
Wow.
For those of you listening and can't see the video, Jen just made a really big wow face.
That is so exciting. Like just hearing those numbers makes me want to run and go and write another blog.
I know, right? Yeah, so that was my first light bulb moment as far as like, this isn't just busy work. He's not just doing me a favor. This is actually having real results for his business. So that would be why, even though I got another day job, I kept writing for him for the next like 6 or 7 years, all the way up until he retired. Because it was still getting good results for him. So my journey from that to where I am now has been interesting, because if you had told me at that point in time that I would need to learn, this was like 2012, right? So you write a few blog posts every month and you're good to go. You don't really need to worry too much about SEO. It's gotten a lot more competitive since then. So if you had told me at the time that I would need to learn SEO in order to keep doing what I'm doing, I think I would have been too intimidated to even try. I would have been like, no, it's scary. I'll go do something else. I never considered myself a numbers person. And SEO is numbers, but it's a lot of psychology. It's a lot of, what are people doing? How are they finding information? What are they doing once they get that information? So fortunately, no one told me I needed to learn SEO at that point. Although a few years later, a friend of mine, I think, was doing some keyword research for me just for fun and sent me a screenshot. And I was fascinated. I was like, wait, people are looking for this word more than this word, even though they mean basically the same thing. And that's it. I was down the rabbit hole and never really found my way back out. So
It's
it all
wild.
ended well.
Yeah. So we mentioned that you specialize in writing blog posts, landing pages, and emails and integrate SEO with that marketing strategy. How do you
Yes.
balance writing content that appeals to both Google and your human audience? I'm assuming your client's ideal client.
Yes. It is a struggle. There are, for the most part, it's not too bad. For the most part, you write what people want to hear. You make sure the keywords are in there. You make sure it's long enough. You're not breaking any Google rules. But there are always times where it's like, oh, this keyword would be better, but it sounds awkward. But Google wants this, but it's not what a real human would say. So you do have those moments where you kind of have to walk that fine line. I always end up on the side of writing for humans rather than robots. I think if you've got the keywords in there and you're consistently creating high quality content, Google will forgive you for the occasional, okay, it's not exactly the keyword, but it's close enough, we get it. Google is also getting better and better at identifying things like synonyms. So, back in the day, if you wanted to target a keyword, you would have to have that one keyword over and over and over in your content in order for Google to go, oh, I guess this is what they're talking about. Google,
You think?
right? Yeah, you think maybe that's what they're trying to go for. So now you can write more in-depth content that uses a bunch of synonyms, and Google will still figure out, okay, they're talking about this and they're using this word and this word and this word. Okay, it all means this, which also helps Google figure out your context, because we all have words and phrases that might mean one thing in one situation and a different thing. So if you're using synonyms throughout the content, that gives the real life people finding your content better content to read, but it also helps Google contextualize those keywords and get a better understanding of what you're talking about. Google is also getting better and better at context, at figuring out context. That's something that's really hard for robots, and they're still not really on the mark, but they're getting there. They're getting closer. So when people talk about, well, what do I do? How do I change my SEO strategy for this new Google update? Because Google loves to launch a major update every 3 or 4 months. And people freak out. And it's like, Google's goal really is just to help people find the content that answers their questions. If you know your target audience and you create content that answers their questions, and you do so consistently, and it's in-depth, high quality, authoritative content that no one else is creating, Google will figure that out. So I always err on the side of writing for humans over robots. Because I think at the end of the day, it'll end up being both. But also because if you have content that robots love, once the humans get there, they're not going to like that content, and it's going to fail to engage them. It's
Yes.
not going to resonate with them. It's not going to lead them to that next step in the buyer journey. And if they're not doing that, then why are you bothering? You
Yeah.
can have those high rankings, but you're not going to get a good click through rate.
I was really excited with the last update because my numbers jumped up. I'm like, see, I have helpful
See?
content. I
Yeah.
I always try to focus on my ideal client, because at the end
Mhm.
of the day, your content may be in, may be out, but I like to use my blogs also to help my clients, so I'm not wasting my time saying the same thing over and over and over again. I can just give a little
Exactly.
of blogs for my clients, and those are the ones that tend to rank the best, are the ones
Mhm.
that I'm really focusing on what people are asking for help with,
Mhm.
right? Which Google
Exactly.
gets. Like that they want to serve up that same content. So yeah,
Exactly, because if they're asking you at networking events and on calls and whatever, then yeah, they're probably also going to Google to ask those same questions. So
correct.
yeah, when people go, I don't know what to blog about, that's always my first recommendation is, what questions are you hearing over and over again? Write a blog post about that.
Perfect. Are there certain blogging best practices? Like, what are some
Mhm.
2 or 3 things that people should try to do in every blog to be able
Mhm.
to grow their business?
The number one thing is consistency. Consistently create content, come up with a schedule, stick to that schedule like any other deadline in your business. That is non negotiable. Your new blog post has to go out on this day every week, every month, definitely no less than once per month, preferably more like 2 to 4 times per month. If you can't consistently do 2 to 4 times per month, then stick with once per month and just do it every single month, whether it's the first of every month, the 15th of every month, the 30th of every, whatever it is, make sure you are creating content and publishing on that date every single month, and stick to it, because it takes a while to see results. But if you are consistent about it and you stick to it, then you'll get those results. So that is first and foremost.
Yeah, I beyond my client work, which is obviously really important, my blog going out on Sundays and my podcast and my YouTube video from the same content is non-negotiable. And I tend to try to create ahead so that if I have a week that I'm not feeling good, I have been throwing up and recorded a video. It did take a long time, but that's how non-negotiable it is. And I think that people often are overwhelmed with running a business, not to mention the
Mhm.
workload that they have. And the one thing that actually falls is that content. And then
Mhm.
2 months from now, they're like, where are all my leads? Well, you stopped
Mhm.
marketing. Like that's
Yeah.
specific. Like it's just the way that it works.
Mhm.
Um,
100%.
yeah, you're passionate about helping blogs get results. In your
Mhm.
experience, what are the key performance indicators or KPIs that a business
Mhm.
should really track to measure a blog's success?
That depends on your goals, which is probably one of my second tip is have a goal going in. Should not necessarily be $75,000 in 6 months. That's
I would like that.
great goal. If you can reach that, great. It's not realistic for everyone, and I should preface that by saying this person had been blogging on his own for a long time before he hired me, so he kinda had that goodwill built up with his audience as well as with Google.
And his services
So
are way more expensive probably than most
exactly.
entrepreneur businesses. So
Exactly, yes. So I don't wanna take full credit for that, but it is a sign that, yeah, if you know what you're doing and you do it consistently, you will see those results. So, yeah, have a goal. Is it, more clients? Is it growing your email list? Is it getting more people following you on social media, people signing up for your webinar? What is that next step in the buyer journey? Just to make sure that that makes sense, that you know what that goal is. Marketing is hard because especially I work with a lot of people who are lawyers and financial planners, right? So they've got that longer buyer journey. It takes a while to build up trust with people. So your blog post isn't always going to translate to a client right away. Obviously, you want to see traffic. Definitely keep track of your Google Analytics. Make sure that you're actually getting traffic. Make sure people are sticking around. If your bounce rate goes up, that means people are clicking to your website and then clicking away within a few seconds. So Google doesn't like that, and that's not good for your business. So you got to figure out what's bringing them there, because that's the other thing about SEO. It's not just about increasing traffic, it's increasing the right traffic. So if your bounce rate goes up, even though your traffic is going up, that could be an indication you're getting the wrong people to your content. And in that case, it's time to, take another look at your content, your keywords, what is it that's driving the traffic, and then what's driving them away. So you want the traffic, but you also want that engagement. You also want to make sure people are actually sticking around and reading the content and then actually clicking through to that call to action. So have something that you can measure. Have a link there, have a download, have something where and then track it. Track it with Google Analytics, track it with something like HubSpot, something where people came to this blog and then they did this, or they came to this blog and then they clicked away right away. So look at those things and make sure you know what that next step in the buyer journey is. And with emails, it's really easy, especially with something like MailChimp or Constant Contact. Open rate obviously is great. Click-through rate is also great. You want to make sure people, if you have links in your emails, that people are actually clicking through to those links. And then that's another thing to look at with your Google Analytics is, how are people finding you? Are they clicking through from a social media post? Are they finding you via organic search? And if so, what search terms are they using to find you? I've had some wild clients who are ranking for things that have nothing to do with their business. And yet they're driving traffic that way because of something old that was on their content that is no longer relevant to their brand. So if you track those things, you can see that and then adjust for it. But yeah, if you're not tracking, if you're not seeing what people are doing on your website, then you have no idea that that's happening. So yeah.
yeah, I will also say too that I find that especially new business owners, or they just start blogging for their business, that they make it super wide or super general. And what I've found over the years is the more niche down that you get, like I help serve hyper busy female service providers. Like I am super niched. I work with people that have products. But my
Mm-hmm.
niche, the thing I'm going for, when I get super niche down in my content, they're on my website longer. They tend to
Mm-hmm.
go to another blog post. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
if someone goes to a blog and they feel like you're talking to them, right? Your ideal client, there's a
Mm-hmm.
better chance that all your numbers will get better. So
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes clients will come to me and I'm like, it's not that your content is bad. It's that your content is not niche down enough to really
Mm-hmm.
speak to those people that you want to be your clients.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah. And that's a famous line in marketing. When you try to market to everyone, you end up marketing to no one. Because yeah, you're trying to hit such a broad target that anyone who comes to your website feels like it doesn't resonate with them. Everyone feels like you're trying to target someone else and it's not really relevant to them. And yeah, I know a lot of people, especially when they're just starting out, they feel like niching is turning away some people, and that's not the case at all. I had a business coach for a while who put it really well when she said your target is not your portfolio. You can serve other people who are not in your target audience, but you need to know who your target audience is so you create content for them. And then you will end up attracting audiences who aren't quite in that target, but they're close enough and they check enough of the boxes that your content is resonating with them. And it will really surprise you. But yeah, if you just try to hit everyone, you're going to end up hitting no one.
Correct. Okay, so I want to speak specifically to those business owners that don't have a blog, right?
Mhm.
People say the internet's saturated. I don't even know if there's still an opportunity. Is blogging dead? All the things, right? So, talk to us a little bit about why somebody would want to start a blog and
Mhm.
if there's any strategies for someone who's just getting started, because it is a long journey. It's not something
It
you can
is.
get results overnight. So,
Correct.
let's address that for those people.
Yeah, well, like we were just talking about, it's your target audience. Everything comes back to your target audience. Yes, there's a ton of content out there. It's not all targeting your target audience. It's not created for them, it's created for other target audiences. And yes, there's going to be some crossover. Yes, there are going to be people out there who are, creating content that will also resonate with your target audience. But creating the more you can, like you said, the more you can niche down, the more likely it's going to be that people are going to find your content and be like, oh, I've never heard it quite said quite that way, or I haven't had anything resonate with me quite this strongly. So yeah, make sure that's first and foremost, is make sure you know who your target audience is before you write anything. Make sure you have your brand voice guidelines nailed down before you start writing anything. Brand voice guidelines are things like, here are the words that are always going to be in our content, here are the words that are never going to be in our content, just so that when people encounter your brand, and make sure you check on that every time you create content to make sure all of your content follows those guidelines. That way, anytime people find content that you created, it's immediately recognizable as being part of your brand. So, yeah. And as far as people who are just starting out, like I said, marketing, know that target audience, come up with a schedule, stick to that schedule, and know, like you said, it's a long game. It takes, and again, depending on how frequently you post, it can take 3 to 6 months at a minimum before you start seeing results. And then don't just put it up and assume that people will find their way to it. Post about it on social media, put it in your newsletter. Like you said, if people have a question and you're like, I've heard this question a million times, oh, hey, I have a blog post about it. Just send them the link to your blog post. Now you don't have to waste time writing out the same answer to the same question over and over. You've got that link. And then who knows what else they'll find when they're on your website reading that. That positions you as an expert. So it's good, again, in that sales process. And again, SEO, Google prioritizes newer content over older content. So if you have
Ooh.
the landing pages and you put up the landing pages and you don't put up any new content for months and months, years and years, Google is going to wonder if anyone is still behind that website or if it's just been abandoned. A lot of real live people who come to that website are going to wonder the same thing. They're going to be like, wait, there's no new content here. What's going on? Which is another reason that, again, consistency. Because if you have a blog and you haven't published anything for 3 months or 6 months or years, right? People are going to wonder, like, what's going on here? They came here for the updates. I came here for the news, and this is all old news, right? So that is the next thing, is make sure that you are absolutely consistently, I cannot stress this enough, consistently creating new content on that schedule, and give it time.
And what would you say to someone who says, I don't think I need a blog?
Well, they're wrong.
Let's just bottom line it. You're wrong. No.
Yeah, no, I would really want to have a conversation with that person about why they think they don't need a blog, how they're currently getting their clients.
Instagram.
Um,
That's what I hear the most. Oh, I'm on Instagram.
okay, well, what happens when Instagram locks you out?
Yeah.
What happens when Instagram shuts down?
Totally
What
can
happens
happen
when Instagram
tomorrow.
changes their algorithm and you are no longer getting in front of people unless you pay Instagram to get in front of those people? That really happened on Facebook years and years ago. Literally, people had built their whole business on Facebook and they literally lost it overnight because Facebook changed their algorithm.
Yeah.
So your website is the only place on your only online real estate on the internet that you own. No one can take that away from you, right? Social media, you don't own that. They can delete your content, they can delete your account for no reason at all. They don't need a reason. It's their business. Literally, they can do whatever they want. So you might think, oh, I've put in the time and the effort and created all this content and I've earned this, and they don't care. It's their business. They're going to do whatever they think is in their best interest, not your best interests.
And I
Um,
consistently get traffic from old blogs that I would
mhm,
think I don't even need it anymore. I should just delete it, but it's still
mhm,
bringing in a tremendous amount of traffic. It's the
mhm.
one area that works when you're not working to bring
Yes.
new eyeballs to your content. Bottom line,
Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
amazing. Once someone finds a blog post, what are the best next steps for
Mhm.
keeping the reader engaged and ultimately converting them? But are there any tips that you can share with that?
Yeah. So we haven't gotten into another question I get asked a lot, which is how long should the blog post be? And there is no one answer to that. But again, SEO purposes, at least 500 words. Beyond that, just make sure you're answering the question. Don't, everything there is to answer the question. Don't try to fill up content just for the sake of trying to reach
Because
some
it does
arbitrary
not
word
work.
count. It does not work from SEO perspective, or again, remember the golden rule is you're writing for your target audience. No one wants to read a bunch of fluff where you just stuffed a bunch of words in there to reach a certain arbitrary word count. So don't do that. But Google does like the really long in-depth blog posts, and when you have a post that's covering everything there is to cover on a topic, right? We call those the ultimate guide style posts. Those are SEO gold. They're also really great at converting leads. A lot of people say, well, no one reads content that's long. Well, the data says that they do. The longer the content is, the more time people spend engaging with that content. So, yes, for that reason, you need it to be longer. But the other reason is make it bite sized, right? So I have these really long blog posts. I'll put a table of contents up at the top with links to each section. So if you're like, yeah, I know that, oh, I want to know more about this, you can click on that link and it will take you straight to that section. So yes, sometimes people are going to skim your blog. I know it hurts because we spent so much time and effort writing that really long blog post and putting all that information in there. But rather than fighting it and trying to force people to read all of our content, just accept the fact that they're going to skim. Make it super easy for them to skim. Make it easy for them to get the content they need, get out, get on with their day. Now, that does mean, while I always recommend having that call to action at the end, whatever that big call to action is, sometimes you need to sprinkle in a call to action earlier in the blog post, especially if it makes sense. I did this with the blog post I just published this morning. There was a part where I talked about a specific strategy, and then it was like, oh, by the way, we help you with this specific service. So that made sense as the call to action there. And then I had my more general call to action at the end, targeting, advertising a more broad service. But again, I work with a lot of service providers. So going straight, it's tempting, I think, for a lot of people to go straight for the hard sell at the end of the blog post. Okay, give us a call. Let's schedule a consultation. If you're in a service based industry where people are still gathering information and trying to decide if they even need this service, much less whether they want you to provide the service for them, going straight for the consultation is a lot like proposing on the first date. Don't do it. You're going in too hard, too fast. You're going to scare them away. They're going to go, no, I don't need that right now. And then they're going to click away and you'll never see them again. So I much prefer to have them subscribe to my newsletter, buy my books, sign up for my newsletter, my webinar, follow me on social media, right? Something else where I can continue pushing content in front of them until they are ready to buy. And that way, A, I'll be top of mind. B, all of that content will have educated them so that they understand the value that I provide. They understand why they should work with me over someone else. Makes the sale so much easier. So yeah, that can be the hard part. The hardest part is trying to figure out what is the right call to action for this piece of content. And that's where you really need to have your buyer journey mapped out. And we could have a whole other episode on the buyer journey and what that is and how to map that out. But if you can, try and figure out where each piece of content falls in the buyer journey, so you know what makes sense as the next step in the buyer journey, and that will tell you what your call to action should be.
Yes. And I will add, I've noticed helped me increase my traffic, and that you talked about it a little bit. I always have a call to action in the middle of every single blog, smack dab in the
Mm-hmm.
middle, and it's always for something free. And then at the
Mm.
end, I put my call to action for a low cost paid thing. And the reason why I do that is if they actually get to the end, which not everybody will, majority of
Right.
people won't, they're serious. And then maybe they'll
Mm-hmm.
want to take me up on that offer. But halfway through, before they leave my blog post and website altogether, I want them, oh, free. Let me get something free. Then they're on my email list. Then I can nurture them and everyone's super happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make that super easy.
Awesome. All right. As we're starting to wrap things up, what are three things that have helped you to grow your business? This could be tools, advice, really anything. What three things?
Well, networking has really been great for my business because yes, we love the blogging and I love writing, creating content, but it's still the one-to-one relationships. So if you can use them in a way that they help each other, like I said, I cannot tell you how many times I've been at a networking event and met someone and then we schedule a one-on-one, and between the event and the one-to-one they go to my website and they check out my blog and they read some blog posts, and now they have a better idea of who I am, what I do, what the benefits of what I provide are. So again, it's not one or the other. It's not like, oh, people don't read blogs, people want to see me in person. Well, people want both. A lot of people want both. And I use my content online specifically to nurture those relationships with the people that I met online, as well as it's a great way to follow up too. If you have that content and you haven't heard from a lead in a while and you're like, oh, we were talking about such and such and it sounded so promising, and then I never heard from them again, send them a piece of content about it. Say, hey, we were talking about, instead of the, oh, hey, just following up, right? And we all know how lame that sounds and feels, and no one wants to send that email, no one wants to receive that email. So instead, provide value. Say, hey, we were talking about this. I know you had this problem. I have this piece of content that might answer some of those questions for you. Now you're providing value. Yes. So that's been a big one for me, is always provide value in marketing, in networking, in relationships, in everything. Provide value. Speak as much as you can on podcasts, at networking events. If you're in part of any networking group, there's usually a whole lot of opportunities to get up in front of people and start talking about your services. And again, you can and should provide value in those presentations, but it's a great way to help people understand just how awesome you are and just how much work goes into what it is that you're doing. So yeah, people can DIY, but the people who are on the fence and think like, oh yeah, I can do that, and then you talk about everything that goes into it and they go, maybe I'll just hire this person to do it for me.
Awesome. Before we get to the gift that you are sharing with our audience, tell everyone about the services that you provide in case anyone's been listening and goes, oh my gosh, I need Allison's help.
Yeah, blogging is still my bread and butter. I do, as we said, write the other landing pages, sales pages. Bios are a lot of fun to write. I do a lot of bios, email marketing as well. And I work in, as you said, SEO strategy into all of that. If you just want the keywords and a list of topics to write about and you write them yourself, I can do that as well. All of the topics I choose are keyword research based. So I identify those gaps where people are looking for answers on a topic and they're not finding it. That's a great opportunity for you to create content around that topic and take advantage of that gap and get that traffic that people are trying to send and they're not finding places to send it. So that is another service. So I can either do that, or I can just do the writing, or I can do all of it. I do also speak at events as well as on podcasts. And I'm just in the process of launching some trainings and coachings as well. So if you want to bring me in to talk to you, your team, whether it's one-on-one or a group about, how to harness the power of content marketing and SEO, I can help with that as well. And all of that is over on my website.
Awesome. And all the links will be down below. Tell
Awesome.
everyone what your freebie is and how it can help our audience.
Yeah, so if you go to, because I know we covered a lot in this, and you're like, I need to be blogging, and I know I need to do all these things. And we know in an hour you're going to be doing something else, and you're going to be like, wait, what did Allison say I have to do for my blog? So I created a blogging checklist that you can find on my website that goes through everything that you need for your blog, from researching, coming up with ideas, the how you need to format it to make Google happy, make it easy for people to skim, and then don't forget that call to action. So that checklist is, again, right there on my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your valuable advice and your time today, because time is money. And if everyone listening or watching found some ideas and tips that you can implement in your business, we would love for you to leave a review for our podcast. Now go out there and do something good for your business, like snagging Allison's gift, but then make sure that you take action on it, because getting education alone will not help you to grow your business. You have to take action. Thank you. Bye.